So welcome to Let's Talk AI. And today we're with David Hernandez. Would you like to describe yourself in a few
Of
words?
course, Thomas. Thank you very much for the opportunity of being here and sharing with you this second instance of the podcast. So very happy to be part of it. I'm David Hernández. I work as a senior manager in EY. I've been involved in data analytics, basically since I started my bachelor. I studied physics and I went down the theoretical physics path, let's say. Then I moved into the academy, okay, the research world. I stayed there for 1 year doing passive fluid dynamics studies and simulations. And then I decided to turn my career around, and I joined the world of management consulting. Given my background experience and given that in that moment everyone was talking about big data and this kind of stuff, I thought that I was going to have it very easy. That was far from the truth. Although everyone was talking about it, not that many people were doing actually that much about the real stuff, right? So I started to work in other areas also, so customer experience, operations excellence, etc., which was also, in hindsight, a great experience because it allowed me to gain a, let's say, holistic business understanding on top of my specialist background, right? And I some years after that, a couple of years after that, I started to work more in depth into the data analytics field. And I've been in a couple of companies already. I started in a small boutique, management consulting boutique in Spain as is corporate. Then I moved to Capgemini Consulting, and then PwC, and since 3 years back, EY.
All right, thanks. I think that's a very interesting point of view. I always, when I hear people that have been doing research and now they are doing consulting or software development, I always wonder if you have a point of view regarding how you felt when you were doing research and now how you feel doing consulting, and how would you compare both?
Sure. So I'm really a data guy, okay? So I'm this kind of analytical person, and I was like initially very happy regarding the having the opportunity of getting into the research world. Also had the chance to work with a very great researcher, my lead in that moment. So I was very happy initially about it, and I was doing what I liked. I thought in that moment, right? But as the time went by, I found myself working on my own in front of a PC in my office, just running simulations and thinking about problems and so on. Then getting some answers, going back to my PI room to share with him, comparing or thinking about results, then going back to the PC, etc. So for days, I mean, of course, during lunch, etc., and off work, I had the chance to interact with other people. But for the most part, it was a very lonely work. And I have to say, this
Hmm.
was Estonia. So
Oh,
winter was tough for a Mediterranean guy like me.
okay.
Um, so yeah, being so lonely, being all the time by myself, uh, I decided it was not what I wanted to do. I mean, I was really missing the interpersonal contact, discussions, let's say the human side of work. And when I made the switch to consulting, that was my main my main driver, right? When I wanted to keep on doing what I was doing in a, let's say, an analytical sense, but I wanted also to have a, let's say, a human side of the job. And the only thing I found that really merged these two ways, these two facets in a coherent and cohesive way was consulting. So
Mm.
that's the reason why I switched, and the reason I've been here for the long I've been doing this job.
All right. Thanks a lot for sharing. Could you share a few examples or one example of how an artificial intelligence solution is implemented when you work with multinationals and when you work with worldwide clients? How does it work? The kind of the overall process of an AI project.
Oh, I mean, it depends a lot. You have many different ways something like that can happen, right? Um, and in my opinion, there are some ways, some avenues, some options which are better than others. Um, we could um, classify the different avenues in two main blocks, in two main categories. First one being business led or business driven, and the second one being IT or data or let's say BI driven.
Mm.
Um, what I've seen a lot of times is that this kind of projects start or are sponsorized or pushed from IT or BI, from IT or BI departments. Um,
Mhm.
and in my experience, these kind of projects tend to think or tend to focus too much on the technical side of the problem without putting the right amount of attention in the business side of the problem. And what ends up
Mm.
happening many times, not always, of course, but many times, um, is that you end up with a very good solution, but without the question. So you start to
Mm.
hunt for the question. Um, and yeah, I mean, this is far from ideal because then you have, I mean, you are doing the work backwards. You are not really answering the questions that the business need. You're answering, I mean, you're finding the questions that your solution needs. And usually this implies an under-utilization of resources, a misallocation of resources, because you are paying not only for the solution itself, but also for the cost of opportunity, for all the things that you are not doing, which could be more critical than what you are doing. Then we have the second bucket, the business-driven initiatives. And what happens a lot of times is, first of all, I would say this is the bucket that I think is the way things should be. Okay, so the problem arises from an actual business need, and it follows the logical path, right? You have a need, and then you find a
Mhm.
solution for that need. What tends to happen also, I mean, the main, let's say, mode of failure in this case is that either business has unrealistic expectations about the solutions. Okay,
Mhm.
they find themselves immersed in the AI fad, and I would say that's not always their fault. I mean, sometimes it's a matter of the people who is going to implement or to deliver the solution overselling. Okay, but
Mm.
there is, let's say, a very I've seen many times, yeah, business having unrealistic expectations about the actual, I mean, about the solution, the solution that would be provided, either in terms of time needed for the solution to be delivered, or in terms of the quality of the solution, or in terms of the different components, right?
Mm.
But the other important mode of failure that you find in this kind of projects is that it's usually the case that the business people doesn't have the actual understanding of the solution to make the best
Mhm.
use out of it. Okay, so either
Mm.
it's very 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 frequent for them to misunderstand the results and the things that the solution is actually able to answer to, and which are not, or even in some cases the solutions themselves being too advanced for what the business is able to handle, to manage, end up
Mhm.
parked in a drawer somewhere, and not getting used, or at least not used at the full strength of their capacity.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if this is the answer you were waiting for, or you want a more, let's say, nuanced way about answer about how implementation is actually carried out.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can go a little deeper on how implementation is carried out. I think it could be interesting to get more into details. Maybe if you have one example of a case without naming any client, of course. But if we could like see more in depth the parts. But before that, maybe could you share, like you kind of did, but the main blockers that the clients will have in terms of implementing AI? As we know, there are a lot of incredible things that can be done, but maybe sometimes, a lot of the times, clients doesn't believe that those are possibles, and maybe doesn't have all the data or the people qualified to implement those solutions. Can you share a little bit more about these points, and maybe after we could get into a case and developing a case?
Yeah, I can give you a couple of examples in this regard. And also have to say, of course, business has evolved a lot in the last few years, right? Our
Hmm.
business ecosystem is advancing. So I will answer about what I'm seeing right now, and then I will tell you about the journey that I've seen, right?
Awesome.
So to give you a particular example of what I was saying before, all right? We were working with a company that used to, I mean, with a telecom company, okay? Um,
Hmm.
and they had this NBA model implemented, which they were they were having some issues regarding it, okay? Because the BI team was saying that they had a great model, that they had hired super specialists. I mean, they had spent a lot of money to have a very very good model constructed, okay? And they were like super happy. But then the salespeople who had the task. Oh, by the way, I didn't explain what an MBA was. Sorry, an MBA is an express action, okay, model. So basically, this is a recommendation engine. It's a model that
Okay.
understands or analyzes the customer actions, preferences, patterns, etc., and delivers a prioritized list of actions, either in commercial offerings or retention actions, whatever, um, to be carried out with this particular client to increase
Hmm.
the value and the retention rate of the client. Okay. Okay. So they had this MBA model, and they and as I was saying, the VI people was super happy, but the sales people were not. I mean, The BI people was basically complaining about the salespeople, saying these guys are not doing their job. I mean, they are having cultural issues. Okay, they are having resistance to change, and the salespeople were saying that's not the case. The case is the model doesn't work. Okay, so we got
Mm,
into this, and we started to analyze what was happening. Okay, and we
mm,
did
mm,
several things. We of course did a review and um, a quality assurance or forensics of the model they had, the source of the
mhm,
model. But we did a lot of other things also. So basically, we analyzed the end-to-end of the process. We started from the data capture, transformation, who were all the people involved in the different steps of the commercial process and so on, up to the moment when the salespeople were interviewing the client, trying to make the recommended action or not, and then how it was feeding back to the model. And what did we found? We found something very interesting. We found a lot of things, but the one that I think is more relevant for our discussion is that when we were interviewing the salespeople, they were saying, okay, sometimes the model really hits the nail, okay? Really give recommendations that the clients are super, super, super happy about. But sometimes they fail, okay, the model fails, and the model keeps on failing all the time. Uh, and they gave us one particular example. They said, okay, assume or think about a customer, okay, and we have a recommendation coming from the model saying that we should go and try to sell cloud computing to them. Okay, okay, sounds reasonable. Big client, whatever. Let's go. They make the call or make the visit, interview the client, and try to make the sale. Okay, and let's say the client is not interested. The client say, okay, that sounds nice, but I'm not interested at this moment. All right. Then the salesperson do some other offer, or just make him feel engaged, whatever, and then come back to the office. Uh, a
mm,
month after that, there is a new recommendation for that client, and it is again cloud computing. The salesperson is okay, not very convinced, but let's try. Okay, so
mm,
this salesperson goes back to the client and again tries to sell cloud computing to the client. And the client says, "Man, I told you, I'm not interested in this. I told you one more. I don't know why you keep pushing this." And the salesperson is already quite unconvinced about this, but okay. Another month goes by, and the model makes another recommendation for this client, and the recommendation being cloud computing. And at this point, the salesperson is not convinced anymore the the recommendation, of
recommendation.
course.
Yeah.
So they just decide to not to pay attention at all to what the model is recommending, and just try to base their operation on their experience, knowledge of the client, etc. So we end up with a non-functional model basically.
Mhm,
When we went back to review the code, to audit the code, what we found is that the model, although they were saying it was a self-learning and self-updating model, what we saw that was that the model was indeed learning when a sale was made. So when a new product was made, the
mm,
the the model recalculated the weights, etc. to find which would be the next best action with this client. But
mm,
when the sales action was not a success, there was no way in which it fed back to the model. Okay, so basically, a non-successful sales action to the model was equal to a non-action at all levels. So of course the model kept
Wow.
on recommending the same things because for the model the sales action was not
Yes.
doing anything. So the feedback loop was basically broken in this step. And of course, we recommended how to make the modifications for fixes among many other things. But I think this is a very
Hmm.
interesting case showing what I was trying to explain before, right? How there was a gap between the understanding of the people who was, let's say, behind the scenes making and maintaining the model, the AI people, and the people who
Hmm.
were actually out on the field trying to make it work
Hmm.
and trying to harvest the revenues and the benefits from it. Um, and the only thing we did was, talk to everyone and really sit all of them in the same room and try to really, hone into the issues and trace them back until we found the answer. I mean, as you're listening to me right now, I'm not talking about transformers, about anything advanced at all. It's just about
Hmm.
you know
Hmm.
um, basic consulting stuff. Um,
Yes.
but this is a very usual way in which this kind of projects fail in the current landscape. But yeah, at least now, you know, more or less everyone is aware of what is going on and is able to have a conversation on this. But linking with your previous question,
Hmm.
I've seen a great evolution, a great degree of growth in in the landscape, in the business landscape, in the last 6, 7, 8 years. Some years back, circa 2015, um, well, I was a consultant, and I was coming fresh out of the academia, okay, and I had this kind of tools, and I had the technical knowledge about some aspects of big data, analytics, etc. So,
Hmm.
as I was saying, this was a moment in which everyone was talking about this. So I thought it might be, a big, a big hit. Uh,
Hmm.
okay, oh man, I was I wrong. When I was in this one of my previous experiences, I was, as I was saying, one of my previous companies, working with
Hmm.
two other people, senior manager, a manager, and myself, trying to develop a practice or a unit for data analytics within this company. Okay, so we had this client who was design-based consumer products, okay, company,
Hmm.
and they were yeah, they had a business model in which they produce some um, items, some articles, and they displayed
Hmm.
them for a while in their shops, and after a short period of time, some weeks, they just take them away
Hmm.
from the stores. Um, as I was saying, these were design-based products. So we came with a couple of ideas of how we could help this company to
Hmm.
actually improve both in let's
Yes.
say both the efficiencies within
Hmm.
the logistical process and also the help with the design part. So the first side
Yes.
of the equation was by means of using adoption curves. We propose them to construct a model which would allow them to forecast much more early than they were doing at that point how sales of each of these different products uh, were going to be within the
Hmm.
lifetime of this particular product in each of the stores, and allow them to reallocate the pluses and minuses very early on. So they could be and they could end up selling a lot. Let's say um, making a much better allocation the inventory they had in the sales, because
Hmm.
after some weeks, as I was saying, they returned everything. And some shops,
All right.
they found themselves without an article after a couple of weeks, and some others had
Yes.
inventory up to the point where they had to take it away. So
Okay. Can I try to paraphrase you just really quick to make sure I understand correctly? So from my understanding, so you wanted to help the client, um, like have a model that can allow to reallocate in the first few days instead of waiting for a longer period of time. In the first few days, to know if like the population around the store would match this kind of project, or if the project needed to be reallocated in
that,
another
that's correct.
shop. All right, cool. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
And the second part of the proposal, of the idea, was to
Hmm.
make use of computer vision, okay, of neural networks. As I was saying, it
Hmm.
was around 2014, 2015, okay. Um,
Okay.
Make use of computer vision algorithms to come up with with design recommendations, okay, based on fashion trends in different locations, and based on what was being sold most, etc. Make use of a neural network which uh, would identify the different features that were making a difference in each particular moment of time, and come up with recommendations
Hmm.
for the products to be based on those recommendations, right? So
Hmm.
basically, AI assisted design. Um,
Yes.
we were in love with the idea, okay, with both parts of the idea, and we really thought. I mean, we had the knowledge to make it work. Um, So we want to the client to present these ideas, etc. Of course, in a much more detailed way. Uh, and when we ended concluded the presentation, the silence.
Okay.
Um, they just stayed there, looking at the screen without moving, without blinking. Actually, just
Hmm.
muted. So we asked them, what do you think? So is this something you could be interested on, or not? And that brought the sponsor, the main representative from the client, back to back to life, and he told us, two things. First of all, I'm not quite convinced that you're actually capable of doing this.
Okay.
But second question, even if you're able to do this, I don't have anyone in my team who is able to take this afterward and work with this kind
Mm.
of
Hmm.
stuff.
Yes.
So for us, it was wow, a big shock, and for me it was a great lesson actually. Um, so then you had a couple of things going on. You had a
Mm.
business model who had to be mature enough to be able to absorb that. Okay, you
Hmm.
had um, a leap forward so far away that for all the rest of the people, you were not actually leading. You were basically lost.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
and and you had, I mean, and that made me think about what did we do wrong, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I thought a lot about this case, about this example. Of course, I've seen things similar to this one many times in my career, but not in such a stark way, right? But this was a
Yes.
very impactful moment for me, very impactful moment in my career, and I understood that first of all, you have to take into account the maturity of the other side. So
Hmm.
it is not always the case that the super advanced neural network is the solution, even if from a technical perspective it could be. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
if you give them a shoe which is 5 times or 5 sizes bigger than their feet, they will just trample and end up just in the floor, right?
Yes.
So you have to really think about which is the current environment and circumstances of the people you're talking to, and you can show them what 1, 2, even 3 steps ahead looks like, and
Yes.
you can dream with them about what is 10 steps ahead, but that's it. I mean, you can only dream. You cannot think. I mean, you can make them, let's say, you can give them the honey, so they can test it and know that there's more to it. But
Hmm.
from a, let's say, from a practical perspective, you have to keep your feet much more on the ground and say, okay, guys,
Hmm.
we can. I mean, there is a road which takes up to this point. Okay, this is the highest
Yes.
condition, but there are a lot of steps in the way that we have to cover to arrive here, right? Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I mean, before running, you have to know how to walk, and before walking, you have to know how to
Yeah, to walk on four
legs,
legs,
yeah.
right?
So super. That was a super important lesson for me, and the other side of the equation was okay. And you cannot only focus on the, let's say, the technical aspect of the solution. You have to think about the people also. So you have to think about the capabilities, about the skills, about the kind of profiles, roles, etc. that the client has to internalize, has to work with to make this actually happen. So the whole
Hmm.
operating model is super important. And of course, the data strategy,
Hmm.
which will be guiding the operating model, okay? Which should
Yes.
be aligned with the overall strategy of the company. And this connects back with my first comment regarding the usual traps that the companies fall into.
All right. Well, thanks. I think these two stories cover quite well the scope of what I wanted to discuss with you on this interview. So thanks a lot for sharing all that knowledge. Regarding the last, I have three quick last questions to you, if that's okay
Sure.
for you. So the first one is, how do you keep learning and being curious as a senior manager?
Um, how? Okay, I try. No, I don't always achieve it. Okay, but I try to allocate time for that. So people usually construct their agendas from the, let's say, business meeting, then time allocated
Mhm.
for work, then other work-related stuff, then learning, and then families, etc. I try to do it the other way around, actually. I try to first of all allocate slots for my family, etc. Then I try to allocate slots for my personal development. Okay? And of course,
Mhm.
I
Yes.
usually do it, I don't know, very early in the morning, 1 or 2 hours in the morning, starting at 7 or 8 in the morning, just to read the stuff, to make some courses, whatever, or just read articles or etc. And then let's say the business priorities. Okay,
Hmm.
the this is not always the case. There are, of course, always some things, some work-related things that have to be done, and I have to postpone my other stuff. But in a general, let's say from a structural view, that's the way I try to keep things. That's how I managed to
Okay.
make the MBA, the AYPI.
Hmm.
That's how right now I'm preparing a content computing certification. That's how I try to do things, because otherwise the work just moves you around, just and you're just a passive a subject
Yes.
of what is happening all around you.
All
Um,
right. All right. So could you share maybe a book or a content or something that really inspired you?
Regarding, I mean, taking into consideration the discussion that we just had, I think it makes sense for me to make a recommendation regarding data strategy. Okay, this is an
Hmm.
often overlooked topic, and I think it's a very important one. It's a crucial one because it's the
Yes.
linchpin which actually makes everything around it actually work, click together, right? And it's where
Hmm.
the business needs are translated into a directive or a strategy for the development of all the data side of the equation, right? So just to say one, which I think it's a very good premiere in this topic. I would recommend Data-Driven Business Transformation by Carruthers and Jackson, which is a book that I think it's very easy to understand. I mean, it's very, very straightforward, but really, gives the main building blocks, main ideas, main. Uh, it really points you in the ways that you have to look to make sure that you are going in the right way. It basically lays down a plan about how to actually make a company go from, let's say, traditional, not very data-driven status towards a much more advanced and digital and etc. Position in terms of all the dimensions that are relevant, right? The processes,
Hmm.
the people, the skills, etc. So yeah, if I only have one bullet, I will take this one: data-driven transformation, business transformation by Carruthers and Jackson.
Awesome. We've come to an end. I wanted to thank you so much for participating in this podcast and sharing all your experience. Maybe last question: if you have anyone in mind related to artificial intelligence that could come on the podcast, would you have any names that comes up?
Actually, I do have one person in mind, and he's an old buddy of mine. We had a parallel career for several years, starting back in PwC and then here in the White. But he left the company some months ago, and he's now a product owner in an ESG company.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very interesting. I mean, ESG is a topic which is very very hot right now, and he's basically PO for a data product within the company.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
works in the intersection of both fields. His name is Alejandro Fernandez, and I think he would be a very very interesting person to interview. And well, for the rest, it's been a pleasure having the opportunity to speak to you in this context. I really wish that this program grows and it becomes a reference within the AI community. Thank you very much indeed, and I'll see you at work. Bye.
Thanks a lot, David. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye.